On this episode of What's Going On with Shipping, the research vessel Petrel rolls over in a dry dock in Scotland. Hi, I'm your host, Sal Mercogliano. Welcome to today's episode. So, research vessel Petrel is a absolute rock star in the world of naval history and nautical archaeology. Petrel was owned by Paul Allen, one of the co-founders of Microsoft. And since 2016, this vessel has been on an epic world tour finding ocean wrecks at the deepest bottoms of the ocean. I mean, it's just been amazing. The most recent find for them was the destroyer, the USS Johnston. This destroyer was part of the American destroyer screen around a task force of U.S. escort carriers that came under fire by Japanese battleships at the Battle of Leyte Gulf, specifically the Battle of Samar and the run of Taffy 3. That was the name of the code name for the task force. And the Johnston was pummeled by Japanese battleships and cruisers, and the wreck is just an amazing find, but just one of many done by this vessel. Well, story comes out today that the Petrel in a dry dock in Edinburgh has rolled off its blocks and numerous people have been hurt. So let's take a look at this story, the Petrel's history, and by the way, what's going on with the Petrel today? Because Paul Allen died a few years and the Petrel has been sold, but the owner may surprise you. If you're new to the channel, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you'll be alerted about new videos as they come out. All right, let's go ahead and jump into this story. All right, here's the story from CNN. Ship tips over at port in Edinburgh, causing injuries. Go on here. Injuries have been reported aboard a ship sitting in a dry dock was dislodged from its holdings and partially tipped over due to wind. Okay, first off, ship. You could say it's the Petrel, and if you don't know what ship it is, the freaking name is right here, CNN. I'm not sure why you didn't put that in. According to reports, besides this, about 25 people were injured. So a ship in a dry dock sits on wooden blocks. And obviously the wind has been a factor here. The wind has hit that side and caused the vessel to roll in the dry dock. Hopefully those people were not in the dry dock below the vessel when this incident happened, because that is deadly. And hopefully they were either on board the vessel, which can still result in severe casualties when the ship rolls like that. Normally the ship is blocked and braced enough that this should not happen. But again, we're just not clear about the cause for this. When you look at the Petrel, she's a really amazing vessel. This video here comes from The Independent, showing about the issues associated here with the vessel tipping over. So this ship was actually bought by Paul Allen in 2016. It's the former Severin Petrel. Built back in 2003, operated by Subsea 7, a subsea engineering, construction, and service company. When Paul Allen bought it, he had the ship retrofitted as a deep submergence vessel. This ship can operate in up to about 6,000 meters of water, sending down remotely operated vehicles. That is roughly about 20,000 feet. Just an amazing platform. This is from Paul Allen's site, paulallen.com, and you get an idea of the technology that is on board the vessel. Just absolutely, again, an incredible vessel with what it has in store for it. Now, it's not the first vessel that Paul Allen used for this. Back in 2015, he had the motor yacht Octopus outfitted for research, and he started doing this. He would send that vessel out with ROVs to do this, and one of the major things he did with the vessel was an expedition in 2015 to Iron Bottom Sound. This is the area just north of the island of Guadalcanal in the Pacific, where he found a slew of the ships that littered the bottom of the ocean there from the 6-month struggle between Japan and the United States from August of 1942 until February of 43, hence the term Iron Bottom Sound. But the one that really kind of got everyone's attention was the discovery of the Japanese battleship Musashi, which was sunk in October of 1944 in the Sibuan Sea as one of 4 battles of the Battle of Leyte Gulf. The Musashi and her sister ship Yamato were the biggest battleships ever built. I mean, 65,000 tons, 18.1-inch guns, just behemoths. And he discovered the Musashi sitting there down in the Sibuan Sea. Just an amazing kind of find. He's also worked alongside the Royal Navy. One of the things they did was retrieve the ship's bell from the HMS Hood. The Hood was sunk in May of 1941 in a historic battle against the German battleship Bismarck, when Bismarck and Hood, along with Prince of Wales and Prince Eugen, got involved in a fight in the Denmark Strait, and the Hood was sunk when its magazine detonated. Allen came back from that. He purchased the Petrel and outfitted it as a research vessel with a lot more capabilities than what Octopus had. And one of the things he found right from the very beginning was this: the USS Indianapolis. You can tell this is Indianapolis by the hull number, CA-35. That is the term for a heavy cruiser in the U.S. Navy. Indianapolis is known for many reasons, not the least of which it is the ship that Quint talks about in the movie Jaws. But what makes Indianapolis so famous, it's one of the last major warships lost by the United States in World War II. It's sunk by a Japanese submarine. But the ship had just delivered the atomic bomb that's going to be dropped on Hiroshima to the island of Tinian. And it was fast steaming from Tinian to Leyte Gulf for assignment for further duties. But the ship literally got lost in the paperwork. And after the ship was sunk, the crew was put into the water and basically were left to kind of fend for themselves. While 890 of the crew make it into the water, only 316 survive, attacked by sharks, and just a harrowing tale. And again, one of the things that Paul Allen did was bring this alive by finding the Indianapolis. He went on to find, shipwreck after shipwreck. It was amazing. It seemed like every couple of months, Petrel would release these images of new shipwrecks. One of the things he found in great numbers were American aircraft carriers lost in World War II. He found the Wasp sunk south of Guadalcanal by a Japanese submarine. He found the Hornet northeast of Guadalcanal, sunk by the Japanese during the Battle of Santa Cruz Island. He found the Lexington, sunk during the Battle of Coral Sea. And the amazing thing is you didn't just find the ships, but things like this, the aircraft. That's an F-4F Grumman Wildcat. And the amazing thing for me looking at that image is you can just still see the paint and the red little dot, which was eventually painted out because it got confusing with the Japanese emblems. But this is, you can date the aircraft based on this. It's just an amazing find he had. And he didn't just do World War II. He went into, for example, the Mediterranean. He did this for France's Department of Underwater Archaeological Research and found a 2,000-year-old ship off the coast of Corsica with these amphoras, these long-neck ceramic jars, which allow you to date it. This is a vessel from the Roman era. Just absolutely amazing. He would bring biologists on board to chart not just underwater wrecks, but also marine life, because he's looking down at a depth in some cases that have never before seen. So he's finding these species that have never before been discovered. And you look at the vessels he found, it's just incredible. The Roma, an Italian battleship that was sunk by a German guided missile. That's right, a World War II Italian battleship that was sailing from Italy because Italy surrenders in September of 43. The Germans turn on their one-time ally and they unleash the first guided missiles, and the Roma is destroyed by that. You talk about the vessels that he found off Iron Bottom Sound, ships like the Vincennes and the Astoria. We already talked about Musashi and Hood and Indianapolis. In the southern Philippines, he finds the Japanese battleships Fuso and Yamashiro that were fought in the Battle of Surigao Straits, the very southern battle of the Battle of Leyte Gulf. He finds USS Helena, a American light cruiser that was sunk in the Solomons after the Guadalcanal campaign. He finds USS Juno. This is a light cruiser that was shot up in Iron Bottom Sound but was sailing south of Guadalcanal when a Japanese submarine in Torpedo Alley put a torpedo into it and the ship detonated killing almost all on board. There's only 10 survivors from the Juno, but what makes the Juno so fascinating is this is the ship that had the 5 Sullivan brothers on board, and all 5 of them will die. He finds Lexington. He finds the Australian submarine AE-1 that's lost in World War I. The Japanese battleship Hai, which is sunk off Iron Bottom Sound. He finds the Akagi and the Kaga, which are Japanese aircraft carriers that are lost off the coast of Midway. So just amazing finds all the time. The track record of Petrel was amazing. In a 4-year span from 2016 to 2020, it was just uncovering these great items from history, and we were learning so much about what happened to the ships and about the people who lived on board about them and a renewed interest in them. It was great, but then 2 things happened. You had COVID hit, and then Paul Allen passes away. And so the Petrel was laid up for a few years. But then the Petrel was bought, and the question goes, who owns Petrel now? Because the owner will surprise you. So this is defense.gov, and the U.S. Defense Department lists every contract that is signed, and this is contracts for September 29th, 2022. I bring to your attention this contract that was signed that day to BVI Corporation of Seattle, Washington for $12.4 million. According to this, the requirements on the contract cover the acquisition of the used vessel, research vessel Petrel, and spares. Work is expected to be completed by September of 2022. The agency that is purchasing the ship is the U.S. Navy, specifically the Navy Sea Systems Command of Washington, District of Columbia. Sea Systems Command does research and ship construction for the Navy. The Petrel demonstrated its versatility and its capabilities as an underwater research and exploration ship. Because of fears of attacks on underwater cables, infrastructure, a ship like Petrel is really important for doing that deep water exploration and monitoring. And the question is, BVI, who had the contract, obviously they are short on their contract. This was supposed to be done by September of 2022, where it's March of 2023. And they're getting the contract done over in Edinburgh in Scotland, where the vessel was. So the question is why it hasn't come up that the vessel is owned by the U.S. government at this point, because that's a kind of a significant issue. I haven't been able to find any transition of this vessel from BVI. That's the best information I have on it. I'm hoping that everybody who is hurt in the incident is doing fine. All thoughts and prayers are out there with them. But the Petrel is an amazing vessel, and I thought it would be a good idea to discuss its operations and history. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you'll be alerted about new vessels as new videos come out. I'm talking about vessels too much. Leave a comment, share it across social media, give it a thumbs up, and if you can, support the page. How do you do that? You hit that super thanks button down below. It allows you to give directly to the page, or head on over to Patreon and you can become a patron of the page either monthly or yearly and help videos like this come out to you on a regular basis. Until our next episode, this is Sal signing off.